Welcome to the Longevity Lab, sponsored by GoodDoctors.Health. In today's episode, we're diving into the fascinating world of biohacking and exploring what's driving its popularity. And more importantly, what do you need to know before jumping into the deep end? We'll dissect the popular methods highlighted in Netflix series Don't Die, break down LeBron James' $1 million health regimen, and discuss Tony Robbins' journey with longevity and vitality. But here's the real focus. Do you actually need these extreme measures? Or are there simpler, more foundational steps to boost your health and extend your vitality? From hydration and daily exercise to cutting-edge therapies like IV therapy and cryotherapy, this episode cuts through the hype and delivers practical advice for leaders, executives, and anyone striving to stay sharp and energized for years to come. Let's uncover the essentials and debunk the myths, because living well doesn't have to cost millions. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Longevity Lab. I am your host, Dr. J. Hitson, founder of GoodDoctors.Health. Today, we are talking about biohacking, but even more important, what you need to be doing before you biohack. So biohacking has become very, very popular, and it's something that is gaining a lot of media press. There's all kinds of documentary series, and either Netflix has a new documentary out called Don't Die, which I definitely want to dive into on this podcast. So when we're talking about biohacking, it's like all of these advanced medical procedures that people are undergoing to enhance their overall physical health, sometimes even mental health, and a lot of times the objective is longevity. So as you were going through, I want to kind of sort through what is true, what is not true, what do you actually need, and who does this really apply to? So another Netflix series, it's called Starting Five. It features several of the top NBA basketball players. One of them happens to be LeBron James. In the series, LeBron James, they said that reportedly he spends approximately $1 million a year on his physical health. So, and I mean, there's several different layers of that, and they kind of get into some of that during the series. Now, whenever you're going through and you're seeing, between the trainers, massage therapists, some of the different technologies that he uses, I want to be very, very clear. LeBron James is 6'9". He is at this time 40 years old, and he is still playing competitive basketball with people who are 2 decades younger. He's playing competitive basketball with gentlemen who are his son's age. Literally, his son is on the same team at this point. So if you are LeBron James, which first of all, just understand the physics of being 6'9". I mean, he is one giant long arm lever, and there's a tremendous amount of force on every single joint, every single part of his infrastructure. When you are that tall, I mean, there's just a lot of physics that's pulling on you. You're going to have to do more to keep up a frame like that, much less keep that frame going and playing, for decades upon decades at an extremely high level. But see, that's where biohacking does come in. What LeBron James is doing is he is asking his body to perform beyond really what the human body is ultimately designed to do. And if you're in that situation where you want your body to do beyond what it's designed to do, yes, biohacking is something that we're really going to have to be talking about. But is that the average person? Does the average person, are you really demanding that much of yourself, from a physicality standpoint, that you need all of these, elaborate and sometimes extremely expensive protocols? Another person who I absolutely love to follow, especially with some of his health, not just his health journey, but his health insights, is Tony Robbins. Now, Tony Robbins has written an incredible book, with other people, but Life Force. If you haven't read this one, and like if biohacking and longevity And if just overall long-term vitality is something that you're really interested in, I'm going to tell you this is a great place to start. Now, it is heady, it is thick, and I'm going to tell you it's not for the faint of heart and especially when you can start to get really, really deep into this. There's a lot of medical. I found it incredible, loved every single bit of it. I will tell you, this is where you like this is if what we're talking about is something that you're really interested in, and I have to say he's doing it well. Tony Robbins is doing it well. He's setting up a series of clinics to offer some of these kind of services. I will tell you, you don't have to necessarily go find Tony Robbins clinics necessarily to do that. There are they're popping up all over, especially the United States. I'm in Nashville, and actually, there's one that just opened up recently right here in Nashville. Let's talk about Tony Robbins, though, for a second. Tony Robbins is 6'6", and at this time, he is 64 years old and still going after it. I mean, the man has an insane life. Not only that, but if you understand some of his health journey, he actually has like this rapidly increased metabolism from literally a brain tumor. Putting it simply, that is one of the reasons why he has so much energy and all that. Now, somebody who is again that tall, has that much physics going against them, and when you start to get into your 60s, if you want to keep going at that level like you were doing in your 30s and your 40s, yeah, biohacking is something you really do want to look into. And let me just say this, there's a lot of people, and that's one of the things that, I'm specializing in is, the executives and the leaders who are saying to themselves, I still have a lot to offer. I may not be able to do the 80-hour work week grind for another decade, but I'm not ready to stop. What do I do? Some of these techniques, they are really a part of the plan. Now, before you biohack, I think there's a lot simpler ways, and we're going to talk about those here in just a minute. Before we get into just the practical, let's go into the very unpractical. The new Netflix series, Don't Die. This particular series features Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson is a really eccentric figure out there. And in the series, they actually get into his protocol. And he's kind of become, I think obsessed is a fair word. He's become obsessed with longevity and living longer. Again, his whole brand is Don't Die. He reports that he takes 100 pills a day. That's a lot. That's a lot. He's on a very extreme diet, very, very specific, I would also say on the extreme side, exercise plan as well. During the series, they get into some of the things he does, like gene therapy, shockwave therapy, light therapy, and plasma transfusions. Now, Brian Johnson reportedly spends $2 million annually. I did say that, correct. $2 million annually on this longevity pursuit. Now, for those of you who watch the series or have watched the series, one of the things that I love about the series is that it's exposing a lot of us who have had no exposure to what's going on in the world of anti-aging medicine. It just shows you how much is already out there, how much is already being done, and how advanced it is. And here's one of the interesting things is he gets into these types of therapies, which are not even the ones that like I consider like the more fundamental ones. I would personally be bringing in some other things, but we'll get into my favorites here in a moment. But yeah, I mean he's getting into the ones that very, very few people are using. But the problem that I run into when people are watching a series like that, one, they're looking at somebody who's spending $2 million annually on this, and they are immediately like, tune out because they're like, I can't do that. Well, not many people can. Not many people have that much time And a lot of people don't have that much money. And the thing I don't want to happen is where you feel like, well, it's hopeless. What hope do I have? I don't have that kind of money. See, it really doesn't take that extreme measure to get almost the same results. So as they're going through and they start talking about, especially in Don't Die, they really focus on your biological age. So there's your actual age, when's your birthday, how old are you? And then there's calculations to understand your biological age. Now, as I love that. I am a huge fan of biological age. I am a very competitive person. So I love just the self-challenge of constantly, improving upon my own, biological age and, in theory, getting younger and younger and younger. We all want to do that. So I do love that particular concept. One of the things, as they were kind of going through, though, when they told us his biological age, I was a little shocked because I know a lot of people who are doing what a fraction, and when I say a fraction, like like 1% of what he's doing, and are getting similar biological age results. It doesn't take $2 million a year to get those kind of results. So what I'd like to do is I would like to give a lot of us who have a fraction of the budget that he has and a fraction of the budget fiscally and time-wise. What are those top things? If I do want to have that vitality, that youthfulness, and I want to feel that, and I want to keep going, yeah, do I want to live to 100? Well, only if I feel great. Well, so those of us, what is the foundation? What are the fundamentals? Let's dive in. Okay, these are not in any particular order, but we're going to just start with some of my favorites. Water. And I think we get a little tired of hearing about it. And because it's so simple, we have a tendency to just not even acknowledge how vitally important water is to your overall health. Staying hydrated, and not staying hydrated, just during the summertime or, just whenever you happen to be on that fad or whatever. I mean, year after year, decade after decade, a consistent habit of being well hydrated. It is so critical. And honestly, it's just going to be hard. It's going to be hard to stay young. I mean, I'm going to tell you, there are people who are doing it. I mean, you're going to hear some reports of these people who are living into their 90s and their hundreds and, drink, tons of coffee and Pepsi and all of that. Sure, there's the outliers. Let me tell you, in general, I mean, you even start to look old if you're not hydrated. I mean, the skin needs a lot of water in order to maintain its youthful appearance. So let's just start there. I mean, there's a lot of different, there's the different theories. How much water do you need to be hydrated? I will tell you, it does depend. The good rule of thought is it's half your body weight in ounces. Now, I can tell you that, like, somebody who weighs, 400 pounds, are they going to get in, 200 ounces of water in a day? Probably not. But as a general framework that gives you a range, in general, a lot of people, 80 ounces is a solid. Some people don't absorb hydration all that easily. And that's where we do have to kind of get into some of those nuances. Like, people ask about electrolytes. I work with so many individuals and I get to see their labs and I get to see what they look like on a cellular level. And I see people who are using electrolytes and people who aren't using electrolytes. And I can tell you, I can't tell the difference until they tell me otherwise. From a cellular level, I can barely tell the difference between people who do and don't. Now, there are a lot of people that I do, whenever I look at their labs, I'm like, okay, well, you're definitely somebody who runs low on sodium. We need to balance that out. Or, you could probably use a couple other things. Your pH just has a tendency to stay out of control. So here's a couple things you could do there. But otherwise, I'm going to tell you, don't make it complicated. Don't overcomplicate water. Just drink it. I mean, the purer the better, just drink it. Point number 2, daily exercise. We know this. We just know this. But here's the thing that a lot of people get away from as we get older. We really get away from the resistance exercise. And that's a big mistake. Because what has happened is our society has gotten to where there's no resistance anymore. Our lives are so much easier than they were even 50 years ago, much less, 100, 200 years ago. I mean, just the simple act of preparing a meal, was quite an aerobic exercise when you had to still mill your own grain. You had to roll out the dough. When you had to wash your laundry by hand. Have you ever picked up a wet bundle of clothes and how heavy that is? We don't have that kind of resistance anymore. We have escalators to take us up and down. We have convenience parking. I mean, even at the airport, we're on people movers. I mean, we just don't have that resistance that keeps our muscles strong. And we lose so much muscle mass after the age of 40. So the biggest thing that I'm running into that the easiest thing is keep up with your weight training. Keep up with resistance training, whether it's resistance bands or weights or, even the body weight exercises and things like Pilates, which, by the way, for what it's worth, I have become a huge fan of what Pilates can do. I mean, I am so impressed when I'm looking at the biomarkers of people who are regularly doing Pilates. It's making a difference. So I've become a really huge fan of that particular exercise. So daily exercise, getting that resistance training in. And I know there's people who say 3 days a week, 5 days a week. You want to get it in more than you're not. I mean, yes, you can get away with 3. I know, like, we start to get really routine oriented. So it does kind of help to have like just where it fits into every single day, especially every single work day. Let's go to number 3, sleep. If you're not getting sleep, you're not healing. It's that simple. So the biggest thing, and sleep's a major issue, and I guarantee there are people who are collectively groaning the second I said sleep because they're like, I am trying. I promise I will do a whole separate podcast on sleep. It has been a major focal point of mine for a huge section of my life and my career. And I have a lot to say about better quality sleep. So if you're listening to this in the future, then you may be able to scroll ahead to that sleep podcast. But otherwise, just kind of stay tuned. With regards to, I'm going to put number 4 as stress. I mean, we do have to get stress. And again, that's another collective groan, right? You've been told that for forever. With regards to stress, the one thing I want to say there, if I was going to put one small point to it, just breathing again, just breathing. There is a tremendous amount of research out there that shows just people who have good breath. And I know that seems like, doesn't everybody? We're all breathing, but not necessarily. People who have good breath have the longest longevity factors. So, they kind of take in like, okay, if you drink plenty of water, how much longer are you expected to live? If you have a really good exercise program, if you eat right, all of those different things. Here's how much that's going to add to your longevity. Breathing was number 1. Breathing. And here's the thing is, so many of us, when we get stressed, we start to hold our breath. And we just don't even realize it. So just good breath work exercises. And here's the funny thing for me, as I've been through that, because I was a late adopter on the breath work. Let me just tell you, it is not something I'm kind of a go person. And so the thought of sitting down and paying attention to my breath just seemed like a huge waste of time. So it took a long time and a lot of people to finally convince me that this was a topic worth my attention. Because here's the thing is, like, what can be more boring than focusing in on your breathing? But that's kind of the point. It's that you're training your mind on possibly to focus in and to pay attention to possibly the most boring thing you could ever focus in on, and allowing your mind to still without all of that excess stimulation. And, once somebody showed me that, and again, I'm going to have to, dive more into this particular topic again on another podcast, because there was a project that came out, and they showed that for every 1 minute of breath work, of meditative breath work that you do, you get 9 minutes of productivity. That got my attention. Now it does cap, you hit the peak of that at 10 minutes. Okay. So at 10 minutes, you get, that's where you hit the peak, but up to about 30 minutes. So, you don't get the maximum. So you can't, if you have an 8-hour, 8-hour workday, you can't meditate, for 7.5 of those hours and expect that immense productivity at the end. It caps at about 30, according to this research. But that's very fascinating, right? That meditativeness and what that can do for you. So breath work, stress management, all of that. And then here's another fun one that, again, the collective groan, go ahead and get it out. Weight management, keeping your weight under control. And again, a lot of you are like, yeah, I know, I'm trying, and it's hard. Again, it's, especially as we age, the body naturally puts on fat as a protective mechanism. And again, we're going to have to spend more time on another podcast on just weight alone as well. But here's the key takeaway. If we just take a moment when we are eating to pay attention to the foods that make us feel amazing versus the foods that don't make us feel amazing, and really listening to our bodies when the body says, I'm full, versus, when our eyes want to clear that plate. It's really fascinating. Because the body will tell you what it needs, what it wants, what it's asking for with regards to nutrition. And we just listen to it and pay attention. This starts to become an easier process because most of us are consuming way more calories than we need to. And if we start just taking in the calories that actually make us feel good and, make us feel good in the moment and then make us feel good for the rest of the day, weight becomes less and less of an issue. So those are the foundational ones. I know they're hard. I get it. It is hard. It's hard for me. It's hard for all of us because we're busy people. We've got a lot going on, and these things require effort. But you can't bypass it. You can't bypass the foundation. So you really do have to do the work. I mean, there is no plan out there. There's no magic pill. There's no plan where you get to eat Taco Bell every single meal and everything turns out okay. It's just not how it works. So those are the basic ones that everybody's heard. Now, the ones that were not featured in Don't Die, that I was really surprised that I would like to bring in on this is, my favorites. Bar none, IV therapy. I am a huge fan of IV therapy. And especially for those who have digestive issues. I am somebody who has long history of digestive issues, and IV therapy, that has done for me, it's a way to get nutrients that bypasses my digestive tract. Because here's the thing, it's kind of hard to heal the digestive tract with the digestive tract, but by bypassing it and getting those nutrients straight in, it's like a life force for me. It's just pure go-go juice. Now, not everybody has the same response immediately that I have, but I'm going to tell you, I am so impressed with just what I'm seeing and what is happening in the world of IV therapy. Another one that was not really brought up was hot and cold therapies. Like for instance, cold plunge, cryotherapy, and then sauna will work. Uh, that the hot cold therapy that's been around for thousands of years. I mean, we're looking at like the people in the Scandinavian region of the world have been using the saunas and the cold plunge for longevity, it's since their earliest records. I am a huge fan. Again, it takes a little getting used to. It's not something that you necessarily say, "Oh my gosh, I love this." Like, I can't wait to do that again. But I'm going to say you're going to be impressed if you just stick with it. You're going to be impressed with how that makes you feel, in your body. And then the last one I'll bring up here, as we're kind of running short on time, is just getting a proper supplementation assessment. So there's a statistic that I believe to be absolutely true, that 80% of the supplements that are being consumed are either not right for that individual or just not effective. In my experience, that rings pretty true. When people list out the supplements that they're on, only about 20% of them did they actually even need or were worth repurchasing again. So getting a proper assessment as to what do you specifically need for your physical health in order for you to be healthy, it varies way more than you think it would. As I've been going through and again, working with people and seeing their biochemistry, there are some commonalities. I mean, cholesterol runs high with a lot of people. Vitamin D runs low with a lot of people. I mean, there's some that are, you say more often than you say with, you see it more often than you see others every single day. And I mean that every single day you find an anomaly where somebody was doing something that they heard on the internet that was supposed to be great, and it is absolutely egregious for them. Yesterday, I had a woman who is absolutely poisoning herself with vitamin D. Now, first of all, I'm going to tell you, very few people can even do that because most people just don't absorb vitamin D very well. And, in general, the amount she's taking is within a range that a lot of people very, very, very healthfully can take. She is poisoning herself, and it sent her to the hospital, and she had no idea. And, and again, it was with digestive issues. Nobody would know. Nobody would check. Like, oh, here's this woman with terrible digestive pain, would never check excessive amounts of vitamin D. There you have it. So my whole point is just getting that proper assessment. Quit with the guesswork. It is not worth it, especially when we have access to these technologies. There's, it's becoming more and more and more affordable. And for what, a lot, companies like mine and a lot of these other companies, for what we charge to get the information, my goodness, you're going to save that in a couple months on the supplements that you just simply do not need to be taking. So I am just a huge, huge advocate. Get the biofeedback done, get the blood work done so that you know what should you be taking and what should you not be taking with regards to supplementation. Furthermore, I know in my particular, in the way I work with patients, I'm going through all of these factors. Where are you nailing it for your longevity, for your vitality? And then, where's there some room for improvement, and how do we build that in? Because here's what's beautiful. The research is there. We can help individuals not only live an extra 10 years, 20 years. We can be adding that time to our lifespans with incredible health and vitality and mental sharpness and physical and mental stamina. And isn't that what we all want? So that'll be it for today, folks. I hope you stay tuned. I hope you subscribe, and just follow the work that myself and many of the others here we are doing, just to give you the the true real world advice, because there's a lot of people out there who are telling you a whole lot of things, but unfortunately, a lot of them are no longer working with they're not working with humans anymore. They're working with research. They're working on data. They're not necessarily testing out what they're saying. So I really appreciate you listening, and I hope to see you again. I am Dr. J. Hitson with GoodDoctors.Health. If you're interested in getting more information about our blood work analysis or a personalized health consultation, visit our website at GoodDoctors.Health.